Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies. I'm Dr. Jay Warren. I'm the prenatal and pediatric chiropractor here at the CAP Wellness Center and the host of this podcast that's all about healthy pregnancy, natural childbirth, amazing postpartum care, as well as care for the kiddos, because we want to have these kids coming into the world as safely and as naturally as possible so they can start off life really healthy, really strong, and ready to launch into life they came here to live. So today's guest is going to help us do just that. So Bailey Gaddis, she's the author of the Feng Shui Mommy. It's creating balance and harmony for blissful pregnancy, childbirth, and motherhood. And it's a really comprehensive look at pregnancy as well as the fourth trimester. She's going to talk all about mind, body, and spirit in each of those areas and just how Feng Shui has anything to do with childbirth as well as motherhood. But before we get into that and bring Bailey on, let me take, as always, a moment to hear a word from our sponsor, the CAP Wellness Center.
Hi, I'm Amanda, the Director of Yoga at CAP Wellness Center in Encinitas, California. Prenatal yoga is beneficial to women on so many levels and so many ways. A few of my favorites are that it helps reduce stress, to calm our mind and slow our breath down. It gives us a chance to connect with our babies, and it helps to build some strength and stamina that we're going to need for the labor and birth of our children. We have amazing teachers here at the center, styles ranging from prenatal vinyasa to gentle, deep stretching classes, and we even have a meditation class to give you a chance to really calm your mind and connect with your baby on a deeper level. I'm wishing you all healthy births and happy babies. Namaste.
All right, let me introduce our guest and then we can switch over to our conversation. Bailey Gaddis is the author of Feng Shui Mommy and is a regular contributor to media outlets including Disney's Babble, Working Mother, Pregnancy and Newborn, Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, Redbook, and Women's Day. She feels privileged as a childbirth preparation educator, birth doula, and hypnotherapist to work with pregnant women and their gorgeous offspring every single day. She also notes that she's fairly certain that the new baby smell is the most enticing aroma on earth. So with no further ado, let me switch over to my conversation with Bailey. Hi, Bailey. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great today. I'm excited to talk with you finally. We did a couple reschedules with sick kiddos and the like on your end and my end, and that's parenthood, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Happens all the time.
Right. But I'm glad we got to connect today, and we're going to talk about your book. I'm really excited to have our listeners hear about the Feng Shui Mommy. That's your book we'll be talking a lot about, and I have tons of questions on how Feng Shui relates to parenthood and pregnancy and birth and everything, and you're going to tell us all about that. But beforehand, tell us how you came to even be inspired to write this book. I mean, a lot of moms are, transformed by their birth and their kiddo coming into the world, but not everybody writes a book about it. So how did that come about?
Yeah. So when I was pregnant, I really knew nothing. And so I was really excited to, dive into all of the research and felt equal parts terrified and well-informed from everything that I read, but I was still really confused. I just felt that there was nothing that I fully resonated with. And I eventually started teaching hypnobirthing classes because that was one book and one method that felt good to me. So after I had my son, I had, a pretty good birth experience, pretty happy, but I still felt like there was just something missing and something more that I needed to tap into. And so I began teaching childbirth preparation, which kind of helped, but I felt like, I need to write the book that, I needed to read, which I know authors say a lot of times, I wrote this book because I really needed it. And so that was so true in my case. And, I had one moment when I think my son was about 2 months old and we were both awake at 3 a.m. We were both crying and I just thought, and luckily I have amazing women in my life that are so wise, but none of them were sitting right in front of me in that moment. So I thought, okay, what advice would they give me? What do I need to hear right now? And so I just wrote that down in the back of a book. And about 2 months later, I was teaching my classes and I found the book and read some of the ideas, some of the like affirmations out to my clients. And they're like, yeah, that actually really resonates with me. Do you have more of that? So that was kind of the other piece that encouraged me to start writing the proposal and, go down the very long path to publication.
Right. So how long have you been working on it?
Let's see, from the idea to the actual birth of the book, it was about 2.5, 3 years.
That's a long gestation.
Yes, it was.
Well, and worth it. It's an excellent book. I've loved going through it, and I love how it's organized and even just right from the beginning, you have an amazingly powerful quote that I'm going to share if you don't mind. It's birth is not only about making babies, it's about making mothers, strong, competent, capable mothers who trust themselves and know their inner strength. And that's by Barbara Katz-Rothman. And I think that just sets it up right from the beginning of just wanting to empower women to be able to trust themselves, because it is a process that is completely natural, and as long as we can go with what's happening, that energy can flow and allow it to do so. And that's how you tie in the Feng Shui principles. So for our listeners that might not be familiar with Feng Shui, like how does that tie in? Can you explain?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I became pregnant, I was a professional organizer, and I mainly helped women in Los Angeles to set up the nursery in their homes. And I would use a lot of the more basic principles of Feng Shui. And, to put it really simply, Feng Shui is the ancient Chinese philosophy that focuses on harmonizing humans with the energy in our surrounding environment. So the idea that the stuff around us, the lighting, the air quality, it all it affects our emotions, our health even. And so when I was writing the book, I thought, okay, well, that aspect is really important, and I definitely want to incorporate that into the book. But what about the energy in our mind, in our body, in our spirit? How do we harmonize that? How do we balance that? So I kind of created my own definition of Feng Shui. But in the book, I definitely still have a chapter that touches on those main principles and how to apply them in your life. But yeah, I took it from, the surrounding environment to the woman's inner environment.
Right. And it's such a long process, but also short at the same time. Pregnancy, that is.
Yes.
Parenthood's way different. But what are the major things that, like pieces of advice that you would give to a brand new mama that just found out that she's pregnant, whether it's a surprise or super planned, that would set up the rest of the pregnancy to be even better than it might already be?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the word intuition, or those maternal instincts, and getting in touch with those, because I feel like so often, and I'm speaking from experience, this is what I did, is I just focused on all of the things that I needed to do, and I made to-do lists, and I asked everybody around me, how do you think I should do this? And I was just inundated with opinions and never really took the time to tune into what really felt good to me. And I never realized that I already had so much of that wisdom inside of me. And I really already knew, what the best path was for myself and my child, which eventually, I started to hone in on, but not fully. So what I write about in the book, in regards to the intuition, because that can kind of sound like an abstract concept, right? Just listen to your intuition, but what is that? What does that sound like? So what I tell women is, just to start small and, ask yourself just a little question, like, what do I want to read right now? Or should I take a nap? What do I want to eat? And listen to that first answer that comes up before we start analyzing and chewing on all this different information, and listen to that first voice and start to honor that. And then once we get more comfortable with that and trusting, that the voice of the intuition, then we can start asking the bigger questions, like, who do I want my care provider to be? Where do I want to give birth? What type of parent do I think I do I think I want to be? You know, what philosophies do I want to align myself with? And really just start, again, trusting that inner wisdom, because you don't have to be an expert, you know, in pregnancy, childbirth, parenthood to be a wonderful parent and to really enjoy that process. So the intuition is key. And in so many ways, that's the crux of the book, you know, helping women discover that intuition and then feeling empowered to honor it.
Right. Because working with a lot of first-time moms, like the fear of, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this. And it's all this outward search, right? Whether it's research or outward professionals telling them what to do. And it's like second, third, fourth time moms that, having been through that experience, and maybe who's to say that experience has to happen in order to get to this place of, all right, I got this. Like, I know my body's going to do most of the work. I know my body can do this. And there's a confidence and even trusting more of the intuition second, third, fourth time around. But I think your message of, even for the first time moms or someone who is not at that space the second, third, fourth time around, to be able to be in that space and really listen to yourself and inform your intuition, but not have it override it.
Exactly. And of course, you know, especially the first time around, we have fears and we have questions that we just can't answer. So you nailed it. You know, being informed is such a great part, you know, and you want to seek that information. You want to ask questions, take classes, read books. But again, when you're kind of living from the seat of your intuition, then you can take in all that information, but you have this really fine ability to say, you know, this really resonates with me, but this thing, you know, I appreciate it, but I'm not going to use this tool or technique, you know, and you can really make choices that, again, best align with what works for you.
Right. And so much of, especially the first part of the first trimester, using like EFT, you explain those kind of things to deal with fear. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I find EFT fascinating.
Yes, absolutely. So I I first learned EFT when I was becoming certified as a hypnotherapist. And so what that stands for is emotional freedom technique. And yeah, it's just a series of tapping on different meridians. So the endpoint of these channels of energy in our bodies. And the idea there is to reset, you know, different fears or worries that we have. So in the book, I think I use the example of, you know, being afraid of childbirth, right? Which so many women are, and that's so common. And that's something that I had. And so, yeah, I have a chapter in the book that focuses on that. And there's 10 points. So there's 10 endpoints, and you decide, okay, what am I worried about? You know, okay, I'm worried about maybe that final phase of childbirth. I'm so afraid of the emergence of baby and what that will feel like. And so what you do is you rub these tender spots on your chest, and you're saying, you know, even though I have this fear of that final phase of childbirth, I still love and accept myself. So you're telling your body what you're afraid of, but you're also letting yourself know, okay, it's okay that I have that fear. You know, I'm human. And I have a diagram in the book to show you these points. You tap on these 10 different points, and that's, you know, supposed to kind of help release a lot of the energy that's tied to that fear. And you just do that tapping as much as you need, and it starts to lower the level of anxiety and kind of emotional trauma that we have attached to whatever it is we're tapping about. And so it's a pretty simple technique once you learn the tapping. I probably do it 2 or 3 times a day for so many different issues and fears that I have. But yeah, when you learn it, it's very simple. You don't need an expert to teach it to you, but it's one of my favorite techniques.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of it. I've learned it myself to help with anxiety levels when I was in super stressful periods of my life, but also referring people to the charts that you're referring to tap on those things. And you know, it just works, you know, really. Yes. I mean, people can use it for all kinds of different things, but especially in the anxiety during pregnancy, like any kind of tool that's a natural tool like this to be able to alleviate the anxieties, the fears in some way is really powerful. And I, as a hypnobirthing instructor, you know that fear release is a big part of that training as well, like leading up to the birth, so that the birth doesn't go sideways, that you really can participate in that birth and have it be an amazingly powerful experience rather than one to freak out about.
Right. And oh my gosh, the fear can really be a huge block, for initially going into labor, or if a woman is in labor, if she has this big lingering fear, it can put her labor into a resting state. As a birth doula, I have been at so many births where the woman's progressing, she's doing pretty good, but then she hits this wall. And, I use all of the techniques I know in regards to different positions, and we do tapping, we do a lot of things. And so often the tapping is what works, but often just asking her questions, is there anything that you're feeling afraid of? I just had a woman and she started crying and she said, I'm afraid that my husband won't find me desirable after I have a baby. And she just released all these tears. Her and her husband had this beautiful discussion. And then almost immediately her labor kicked back up. And she was fully dilated in about 45 minutes. So, it was incredible. It wasn't her body in that case. It was this fear that she was holding on to, that her body was responding to. And it was staying clamped until she released that, or at least started talking about it.
Right. And that's in the actual birth and labor process. What do you recommend to, couples as well as just the moms in the third trimester, kind of getting ready for the big birth day to prep as powerfully as possible?
Yeah, well, so the fear release, that's a big one, because that is often when so many of those kind of latent fears start popping up and making themselves known. So I have a pretty simple fear release exercise in the book. And, and the idea behind that is kind of doing a little bit of journaling to figure out, okay, what am I afraid of? Because sometimes we're not even aware. It's these feelings that we have, but we don't know what it's attached to. And then it's this 90-second fear release exercise. There's also a relaxation recording to support that. So doing exercises like that and doing birth imagery. I have a recording in the book that's also, just visualizing, moving through your birth, seeing, how you would like it to go. And of course, anybody that's given birth knows that there's so many unknowns. Right. No matter how much we prepare, something might go this way instead of that. And, good or bad, we might have experiences that we feel like, what, I kind of wish that didn't happen, but here it is, and I'm going to move through it. So that's part of it, realizing that no matter how much we prepare, we need to be prepared for the unknown. But it can also be really beautiful to just, again, visualize moving through early labor, active labor, watching yourself, organically move into these different positions, allowing your supporters to work on your pressure points, or, say affirmations in your ear, just seeing, okay, like I can do this, and really just feeling that in your core. Like, okay, I don't know exactly what will happen, but I can do this. My body can do this.
And that's a great start to parenthood, right? Because as many plans as we have as parents,
right.
Plan B, Plan C, Plan D have to happen a lot. Call a lot of audibles as we go. So I think that in the divine wisdom of the birthing process and pregnancy preps you for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. We just kind of have to, again, be as prepared as possible, but then kind of give it up. I mean, I equate it to actors sometimes. It's like they spend months preparing and memorizing lines and really being fully ingrained in that character. And then when they go and perform, they just kind of let it all go and trust that what needs to come through them will come through them. And I really believe that about birth. Prepare as much as possible, but then just kind of trust the process.
Right. And being able to trust that process often, in my opinion, comes from being prepared in all those other ways as much as possible. And then you have that confidence to say, okay, whatever comes my way, like I can handle this. And I know my own personal experience in hypnobirthing classes, getting ready for my son's birth, like it just gave so much more information. And all right, how would we handle this scenario? Okay, we do it this way. Great. And then you could cross it off the list, and your mental headspace wasn't kind of going over and over and over again, like what if, because there's tons of what ifs you're never going to be able to prepare for. But if you can get as many as possible done beforehand, all the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in my classes, I give out, it's this really great, just one sheet called the Birth Companions Cheat Sheet that the Hypnobirthing Institute created. And it's so great. Every time I pass it out, the dads just take this big sigh of relief, or the birth companions, and it's just, a few ideas with birth positions, breathing, a few different things they can say to the doctor if, maybe the doctor's pushing an intervention that the mom doesn't want. And just like you said, they just feel a little bit more prepared, and they have this like tangible piece of paper that they can take with them to support them.
Right. And that brings us to when baby actually gets here. You have a whole section on the fourth trimester, which we're a big proponent of here at Healthy Births, Happy Babies, but at the CAP Wellness Center, of just understanding it's a really sacred time, this time afterwards. So how do you explain it to people that aren't familiar with the fourth trimester?
Yeah, so it is the first 3 months of baby's life outside of the womb. And so often it's referred to as the fourth trimester because, although baby is no longer inside the mother's body, they're really still fully dependent on the mother, on, the birth companion in so many ways. If the mother's choosing to breastfeed, their body's providing that nourishment. If they're bottle feeding, there's still, so much attention and time the mother's taking. The baby wants to be on mother all the time. And it can be in so many ways the most challenging trimester because, when the mother is pregnant, really all she needs to do is take care of her own body, her own health, her own emotions, and the baby is taken care of. But now in this fourth trimester, she's still having to, as much as she can, take care of her own health, her own body, her own emotions, but the baby's as well. It's like playing double duty, and it can be so overwhelming. So that's why, I thought a fourth of the book really did need to be devoted to that time, because so often in books and classes, it's like, okay, now you have the baby, bye, good luck.
Right.
And it's like, wait, what do I do now? And, of course, I never want to tell women, what decisions they have to make, but just providing information. So again, they feel informed, they have the information about breastfeeding, about, common questions about their baby's body, their body postpartum, just so, again, they feel a little bit more prepared and supported.
Right. I mean, that is essential in the same way that we were talking about the fear of the unknown getting away of the natural processes in pregnancy and birth. The same happens of, well, what does that mean when, is that a diaper rash or is this a medical emergency?
Right.
And especially in what we're finding too here at the CAP Wellness Center, there's a lot of education women need about what changes their body's going to go through postpartum, because it's not really talked about much at all, especially in the OB's office. And there's a lot of anxiety women are having around like, well, what's normal, what's not? And there's a lot of solitude, a lot of just not getting help because they don't know that it's something to get help with, and they're suffering.
Exactly. Or feeling like, am I the only one?
Right.
And that's, so many of the things I wrote about, in the section about the postpartum body, almost all of them were questions that I had. And I thought, something's wrong with me, or I don't know if something's wrong with me. And I felt so alone in so many ways and embarrassed to continually, call my doctor over and over again. And so, with the bleeding, with the hair loss, with still looking like you're 4 or 5 months pregnant, knowing that these things are normal. And here are the things to look out for that maybe aren't so normal that you need special care for, and just having that information so you can just relax a little bit.
Right. Well, and kudos to you. I mean, the organization of the book is excellent. One in the trimesters, obviously, but then each one's broken down into mind, body, and spirit in order to kind of satisfy those questions in each of those areas. Because sometimes, I mean, it's all integrated, obviously, but they're different. And your book really covers so much here. I know it's available on Amazon and bookstores and the like, but where else would they be able to get it? They can get it through your website. If you could tell people about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they go to my website, which is baileygaddis.com, they can find out how to purchase the book. They can see all my courses, videos, all the articles I've written. Really, everything is collected on that site.
Okay, excellent. And I'll make sure those links are available for everybody listening, so you don't have to write that down. You can click through in either the website where you're listening to this here or in the show notes. And in our last moments here, Bailey, what's the major take-home message you'd like a mom listening to this to get from our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really that she deserves to carve out her own path through childbirth and motherhood, because really no one but her knows exactly what her and her unique child need. And she really deserves to trust herself and to, again, create her own path.
I love that. Thank you. What about for the baby? What about for a little baby that's listening, either haven't even born into the world and they're listening through mama's belly as she's listening to this episode, or maybe just in that 4th trimester, listen on mama's chest? What would you like to whisper in their little ear?
Oh, yeah. It's really that the world is full of so much love and is ready to embrace you.
There so is. They're so cute coming in, and we just want to protect them and make sure they have just a great start. And your book is really a great tool for women and couples to use to help do so. So thank you for being here today, Bailey. I highly recommend the book. Go to either Amazon or to her site and use it as a great tool during your pregnancy. So Bailey, thank you again for being here.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about this episode and other natural childbirth and parenting topics, please visit us at capwellnesscenter.com or message us on our Facebook page with any questions you might have. We here at the Cap Wellness Center look forward to helping you and your family be as happy and healthy as you can be.